What's up guys? In this video, I'm going to show you a better way to use the CapCut mobile app. If you're new to video editing, CapCut is the perfect choice. It's simple, powerful, and doesn't require hours of learning complicated software. I'm going to guide you through the basics of CapCut mobile and help you get up and running fast, but I'm going to edit one of my favorite scroll stopping transitions as I do it because from my experience, I learn much faster by seeing it applied to a real example. CapCut Mobile is amazing for on-the-go edits and quick changes, but I also want to show you how I use the app to get projects done more efficiently. CapCut also offers a free version that's packed with features. So if you're just starting out, the free version has everything you need. Of course, the big question I get is, do I need the pro version? The answer is no. If you don't want it, then you don't need it. The pro version comes with extra perks, but trust me, most of what you need to create eye-catching videos is already there for free. Alright, so now that we have the CapCut app downloaded to our device, and no matter what device you're using, whether it's Android or Apple, it really doesn't make a difference. Right now I'm on my tablet and I like that I can turn it horizontally, and you'll see once we get inside of the edit, some of the benefits. I'll point out those things to you to see the difference between that and a mobile phone. So we're gonna want to come over here, and once it's installed, find the little icon for the CapCut app. I'm gonna click that, and it's gonna open up this main user interface. So this is where we would find all of the options that CapCut has to offer. So up here at the top, there's this expand button, and if you click this, it's gonna show you all the different capabilities that this app can do. For right now, we're not going to go through that stuff, but you can go ahead and explore that stuff when you have time. Right now, we're just going to stick to the basics of editing. So down here at the bottom, this is your project menu. So if you're opening the app for the first time, this will probably be empty down here. And if you've made a lot of projects, it may be populated with a lot of different videos. So right here, this is the one active project that we're working on today. And if you were going to start a new project, you would come up to this big blue bar and tap the new project button. Over here on the right side of the screen, you're gonna see this space button, and I like to refer to this as like the CapCut cloud, but what that allows you to do is you can work seamlessly in between your different devices. So for instance, if you were out and you shot some footage on your phone and you wanted to upload it to the CapCut app and get started with your editing, you could do so, and then you can click upload. So down here in these three dots right here, you would be able to click backup, and you can send that to the CapCut cloud, and then you could go to your desktop or your laptop, and you can go into the CapCut cloud and just download that to that device and just start working on it from right there. And then you can send it back and forth as much as you want. I actually use that feature a lot while switching back and forth between my mobile device and my desktop computer. So I'll show you more about that later. I just wanted to mention that that's one of the benefits to using CapCut over another app. But let's go ahead and start diving in. So I'll show you how to start a new project. So you would click this button right here, and then make sure that you allow full access to your library, which is where your videos or your photos would be stored. So it's going to open up your library, and just to note that CapCut will not let you start a new project that is empty. So you always have to have something that you're importing right off the bat. So the way to do that is just by clicking in the corner right here, and it will assign a number, as you can see here. And if you have multiple things, it will start numbering those in the order that you click. So just keep in mind that it's going to import them in the same order that you click them. So let's come over here. So if you click on library, you can also grab stuff from the CapCut library to bring into your project. And I just want to show you that as we're adding these objects, how it places them down here in the bottom of the timeline, and they're in the same order that we clicked. So if you saw one and you wanted to remove it, you could also push this little negative sign or this minus sign, and it will get rid of that. So then to actually start the project, once you have your clips selected, you would come over here to this blue add button, and you would just click that, and then it's going to import all of those photos or videos that you selected in sequential order into your new project. Hey creators, real quick, if you're serious about creating content, you need to know about MotionArray. It's your one-stop shop for everything you need to make your content stand out. MotionArray gives you access to an enormous library of video templates, presets, stock footage, music, sound effects, and even motion graphics. Whether you're editing on Premiere Pro, After Effects, or CapCut, there's something here for every creator. And what I love most is it's all royalty free, meaning that you can use these assets in your projects without worrying about copyright issues. Woo, that's a game changer. But with all those valuable features, there's something new I want to talk about. Their AI voiceover feature. MotionArray now lets you create natural, professional quality voiceovers directly on their platform. Choose from multiple languages, accents, and tones to match the vibe of your project perfectly. Now just head over to motionarray.com. Go to the voiceover tab, choose from a variety of voices, accents, and tones that perfectly match your content. Use the filtering options to narrow down your search, and then type in your prompt, click generate.
And that's it. You get a super high quality voiceover in just seconds.
Seriously, this feature is a lifesaver for creators who need high quality voiceovers without hiring voice talent or spending hours recording. It's quick, it's easy, and it sounds amazing.
Save time, stay creative.
So whether you're creating jaw-dropping transitions in CapCut or leveling up your content for YouTube, MotionArray has everything you need to take your videos from meh to wow. So make sure to check out MotionArray and elevate your videos today. Okay, so let me go ahead and head back out to our main project window, and this is the project that I want to take a look at right now. And so before we get into those clips, let's talk about the interface here and some of the tools that we'll consistently be using. So something that is really common that you'll want to do is you're going to want to first arrange your clips. So once they're imported, if you don't have them in the right order already, then you might want to swap the order of them. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and what I'm going to do is pinch my fingers and close them up on the screen, and that's going to allow us to zoom out, and then we can scroll back and forth. But what I can do is I can long press on one of these and I can drag it into the place that I need to. So just to note that on some devices, if you have the clip selected and you try to long press on it, it won't let you move it. So on my Android device, for instance, it won't let me do that. So you would just click over here in the gray area to deselect in the negative space, and then you would be able to long press on one of these and drag them. Once your footage is in order, one of the most common things that we want to do is get rid of the parts of the clip that we are not going to want to use. So we can do that a couple different ways. We can trim the clip, or we can split it and delete the parts. So I'll show you both ways right now. So if we come over to the point where we want the clip to start, and I'm going to choose a point of action. So if I start while my foot's in the air, I like to start on a point of action. In general, it's just more engaging for the viewer, and it's just kind of a rule of thumb in filmmaking to always start on action. So go ahead and select that, and what we can do is we can use this toggle bar here to shorten the front of it, and it will just snap right to where we want it to. And then once we let go, everything shifts to the beginning of the timeline. So now our clip is starting on that point that we chose. Another way to do that, so over here on the right side is our undo button, and this is probably one of the most common things to use. And when you're editing videos, I want you to never be afraid to just get in and start making adjustments, because you're not going to break anything. You always have the flexibility to come over and just click this undo button to go back to the previous step, or you can click it a bunch of times to go way back into a previous point in time. Okay, and then also if I undid something and I wanted to redo it, I could click this little right hook right here and it would redo, and it also tells you the action. So when you click undo, it says undo my crop, and then I can redo that. Okay, so always remember that that's there, and it's super powerful. So if I undo that, I want to show you another way. So if we scroll over to the point in time where we want the clip to start, what we can do is we can select our clip and then come down here in the clip menu and select this split tool. And if I click that, it makes a split right on the point where we've stopped the timeline marker. So then I can just click the left side and then come down here to the delete or the trash can and delete that. So now we've basically just done the exact same thing, but a different way. And that really will depend on your personal preference. You don't have to decide right now, but you'll just see as time goes on what kind of works better for you. Sometimes I use both of them, so just whatever makes sense in that instance. Okay, so then we would come over here, and with this clip, the idea is that I'm creating a jump cut or a match cut. And what that means is that when you create two clips that you want to transition seamlessly, you want to match the motion of them. So in this one, it's pretty literal to where I'm doing the exact same motion. The idea is that I'm going to change into this different location right at the point when my feet hit the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the point that I choose, and I want to make a visual cue or a mental note. So I would say right there where my sandals first touch the ground. So we'll go ahead and use that as a visual marker. And I'm gonna select my clip and then split it down here. And then this is already selected, so I can just hit the little trash can or delete button, and that deletes the right side. Then what I'm gonna do is scroll over here, go to the same point. So that's right there when my sandals first touch, but then I wanna actually go one more frame. Okay, and sometimes it's a little hard to get right on the frame you want to, so if you're having trouble, you can always zoom in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my two fingers to pinch and spread to zoom into my clip. And that gets us in there really close so we can just focus on a tight spot and not get lost by the other distractions or not be able to fine-tune our result. So now I can really go in and choose the frame that I need. So this is where we stopped the other one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go one more frame so that they work perfectly in sequence with each other. So we'll go one more frame ahead. I will tap that to select that clip, come over to split, and then delete the left side. So now what we're gonna be left with, and what I'll do is zoom back out, and that's by using my fingers and just pinching the screen. And when I hit play right here, that's our transition. So what I did here was not only create a match cut transition, but I also wanted to have a little extra cleverness or humor to it. So I brought sand into the scene in this second scene, just to kind of tie the two together. And then what's really gonna level this up is when we add sound effects and music, which I'll show you in the next video. So for now, I'm pretty happy with that. We can come down here and we'll go ahead and trim off the back of this because we don't need all of that. And what's great, I mentioned this snap tool. In CapCut and with other editors, a lot of times they have a snap tool, and what that does is it creates a magnetic effect so that you don't have to go right in and perfectly fine tune this. It actually snaps right to where you have your timeline marker. Okay, so let's come back over here. So let's talk about the menus for a second. So when I have nothing selected, I don't have any clips selected, any audio selected. This right here is like our main project menu. And the second that you start clicking and selecting objects, the menu changes. So you can see now down at the bottom, now we're gonna call that our clip menu or our footage menu. And what happens is the menu has now changed to where any of this stuff that we apply, it's only gonna affect the clip that we have selected. As opposed to when we don't have anything selected, anything we do down here is going to affect the entire project. So let's go back into the clip menu, and you can see there's a lot of stuff in here. I showed you the split tool and the delete tool. Those are two of the most common things. I'll just briefly talk about a few of these other things. So right here with speed, you can speed up or slow down a clip. You can add animations, effects, there's transform, there's all kinds of things that you can do down here. But some of the more common things that we'll be using right off the bat would be this basic tab right here. And this is where you can adjust the scale, rotation, and position of your clip. So just to note, and you don't have to remember this, but anything that moves on an x-axis is left and right, and on a y-axis is up and down. So when you look at what I'm doing here, I have the position selected, and if I drag the X position here, you can see the clip is going left and right, okay? If I let go, so I'm gonna come over and hit the undo button, and then if I do the same thing down here on the y-axis, you can see that it's going up and down, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and undo that. So now we're gonna come over and click scale, and same thing here, it's just a toggle bar that you can really drag. And what's great about these is that you can really fine tune the settings that you want. So if you look on the right, it actually has a percentage mark, and if you wanna get it to a an exact percentage, then you can follow those numbers there. Or if you're trying to match another clip that you know you scaled to a certain percentage or shrunk down, then you can just match that number. So let's go ahead and undo that. And then over here, we'll do the same thing with the rotation. So if we drag this, then it just rotates it. And once again, on the right side, you can see the number of degrees that it's angling that clip at. So if you wanted to match another clip, that's great for that. Or if you knew that you wanted it exactly at 45 degrees, you could dial that in there. That's something that you don't have quite as much flexibility with in the other ways you use these. So let me show you the other ways that you can adjust this clip. So if you come down here, inside of the mobile apps, you use your fingers a lot more as opposed to a mouse where you would use on a desktop. So what I can do is I can actually come in with my finger and just drag on the screen, and I can move this in any direction that I want. So that would be moving the position. But as you can see, it has more of a freedom to it. So we don't know exactly where we're moving our clip. We don't know the numbers that it's dialing in. So let me go ahead and undo that. And then the same thing with scale and rotation. So to scale our clip, we would just pinch our fingers and then spread them to scale it up, or pinch them back down to scale it down. To rotate, do the same thing, use your two fingers and you would just rotate left and right. And you can see the degrees up there, but what's tricky about this one is you can see that the position and scale also kind of gets adjusted as we're doing this. So a lot of times it's going to be more beneficial to go down into that basic tag. So let me go undo these, get it back to where we want. And then yeah, when we have our clip selected, we would come back over to this basic tab, and you can see the difference of how you can make fine-tuned adjustments versus having it very loose. And this is also the way to make sure that you're only adjusting one thing at a time. Okay, so another thing that is kind of annoying inside of CapCut, and sometimes you'll see this when you first open up your app, but there's this add ending button. So you can see mine is empty. But if I click that, you can see that there's a default CapCut watermark in there. So if we come back out, you can just come into the settings up here, and this add default ending, just make sure that this is checked off right here. So discard ending, and we're going to discard that. And what it's going to do is when you open up new projects, it's going to make sure it's not already there. So that's just something that we don't really want to be in there. It doesn't help us at all. It's just CapCut trying to promote their stuff. All right, so let's go back into our project, and we'll come back over and just go ahead and get rid of that guy. Okay, so there's one more basic adjustment that I want to show you, and that is the opacity. So when I click on this clip right here, and I come over to the menu and I scroll over, you can see this opacity feature right here. And what opacity is it's basically the transparency of an object. So when you're at full opacity, at 100%, you're going to be able to see your object completely. It will be fully opaque. And as you start bringing down that opacity, then you can see that it starts to disappear. So this is something that we'll be using pretty often, and it can be great for revealing things. You can set keyframes on here to make stuff appear smoothly, or you can just use it to kind of review and line up the timing of stuff. So let's put that back up to 100%. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and deselect my clip. And what we're looking at here is our main sequence, or our timeline. And we have all of our footage or clips on one layer or one main track. And there's actually some other ways that we can work on projects in here. So we'll play this through real quick. And you can see that this edit is a match cut where the two pieces of footage are just back to back and they jump cut from one to the other. But I'm going to show you another way that we could do the exact same thing, and that's with using multiple layers. So if I come over and I extend this back out, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to that same point in time when my toes hit the sand, select my clip, and I'm going to split it. But this time, instead of deleting that, I'm just going to leave it there. So then we want to come over to our second clip, and let's find our point that we want to start. And I'm going to select that, split it, and then I will go ahead and delete this one because we're not going to use that for anything. So now what I can do is with this selected, I can use the overlay feature, and what that's going to do is it's going to drop our clip onto another layer. So in the mobile app, when you do an overlay and it starts stacking layers, just keep in mind that it's going to stack them down. And in the desktop app, it's the opposite. Any other editing platform on a desktop computer, it's gonna stack upward. So when we think of layers, think of it as making a cake. And if you were looking at a cake from a overhead view, you would see layer 1 first and then layer 2. So as you're stacking it, think of it as layer 1 and then layer 2. Well, if you're looking at it from up here, which layer can you see? You can see layer 2 because it's completely blocking layer 1. And that's exactly what's happening in our timeline. So when I select this clip and then I come over and I tap overlay, when I have this overlapping this clip and we move our timeline marker to a certain point in time, we can only see the top layer because it is completely blocking our bottom layer. So if I were to delete that, you will see that it's going to reveal the layer below. Okay, let me undo that. Also, if I select this, we'll go back to the opacity feature that I showed you a minute ago. And if I start to bring down that opacity, then you can see that it becomes transparent and we can actually see through it. Layers give you an entire whole flexibility of effects and cool creative things that you can do. Now let me show you the difference of something that we can do to really help us when we're using layers. So when I come to this point in time, you can see that when we transition, my feet aren't actually matching up with the right spot. So what we can do is with this selected, if I pull down my opacity slider, now we can see both shots and we can actually make adjustments. So if I wanted to line up my feet with that clip, then I can kind of drag them over here, and what that's going to do is it's just going to make it feel a lot more seamless. So then we can come back down to our opacity slider, pull that back up to 100, and then when we play this through, we'll deselect everything, hit play, and now they're actually in the same spot, so that's gonna feel a lot more seamless there. So another tool to be aware of is if you are working with multiple layers and you kind of get stuck down here, you're not able to just drag these in the mobile apps from layer to layer. You have to use the overlay tool and the main track tool. So currently this clip is on layer 1 or the main track, and this is layer 2. If you wanted to get this clip here back onto the main track, then you would want to come over here, and there's a button right here that says main track. So when I click that, it's gonna jump it right back up into time. So let's see. So you can see that it pushed it in between my clips, and that's because of where my timeline marker was placed. So always keep in mind that wherever this white bar, this timeline marker is, that's where it might jump something or import it into. So let's go ahead and undo that, and I'll show you the difference. So if my timeline marker was at the end here, and I select this clip, and then I come over, tap my main track, then it jumps it to the end. So that's something that can be time saving if you're aware of that. Okay, let's go ahead and undo that. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you're working with layers, you want to make sure that they all come to an end at the same point. So let's go ahead and play this through. And I think that I would end it there. So what I want to do is select this one, split it, delete that, select this one at the same point, split that, and delete the right. So now we know that when you're coming to an end, that there's no issues. And what happens is if you have music or something on a different layer and it extends past the out point of these clips, then you might end up with some black frames. Okay, so now let's dive into the sound effects and the audio inside of CapCut. So audio is very important to me and in projects in general. Whenever we're creating content, we want to always be trying to evoke emotion. So that's why trending sounds tends to happen and where they come from is because people respond and they're reacting to their emotions. So when we can create an emotion with a video, then it's super powerful. So not only do we create these awesome visuals, but then we can add in sound effects to help tie it together, and then some emotional music to really help drive the story. Okay, so inside of CapCut, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so we can see what's going on, but we've created this transition down here, and we wanna add a sound effect to help the transition feel a little bit more seamless, and then we'll go ahead and add some background music also to help that along. In here on our timeline or in our project, you can notice that I've moved all of our clips back onto one track or one layer. And that's because I want to show you this mute feature. So over here, we have this little speaker with the mute clip audio. If we click that, what it does is it mutes the audio or the sound for all of the clips that are on that track. So I just want to point out that this does not affect the entire project. It only affects that main track right there. So if I unmute that and then I come back over and we drop this back down and overlay that to our previous layer where we had it. Now you can see that all the clips have audio because they don't have that little speaker. But when I click this, what it does is it activates this little icon that's a speaker with an X, just to indicate that that does not have audio in it anymore. And you can see that it has only applied it to these two clips, not this one anymore, because now this one is on a separate layer. So in general, I'm usually always muting my clips in my projects, unless I'm recording some type of a talking video like this one where I'm using a professional microphone. I'm usually not using the audio from the clips. I'm usually going to be adding music and sound effects to help drive the story, because typically it's going to be a lot higher quality. I will click this little arrow over in the left side, and that brings us back to our main project window. And what I'm going to do is click on this audio tab here. And there's multiple options in here. There's sound effects, there's extract sounds. We'll be using some of these from time to time, but for the most part, we're just gonna be using the sound effects and the sounds. So if I wanted to add a sound effect, I'm gonna go into here, and it's gonna show an entire library that CapCut has of sound effects that you can use in your videos and freely post to social media. So if I come into this search tab, and I know that with this transition, I want kind of a hit or a thump sound. So what I can do is, instead of searching through all of the sound effects, I can just come in and search the word thump and see what comes up. And for the most part, for basic sound effects, you can usually find some stuff. They're not the best. I usually pull from other sources, but for some basic edits, you can usually get started with the stuff that's inside of here. So I search that, and then by clicking on it, we can preview these one at a time. So this is kind of what I imagined. Thump, fall to the ground. So what we do is, you can also save these by bookmarking this and clicking this little bookmark icon, and build up a library of your favorites so that you don't have to keep searching. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that one. Click OK, and then when we hit the plus, it drops it right where our timeline marker was inside of our timeline, and then we can just move it to where we need to. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play, and you can see that it's a little bit early. It's also a little bit loud, but let me go ahead and get the timing right while I can hear it really well, and then we'll turn down the volume on it. It's still a little early, so let's go ahead and shift it. So I could have slid it right to the edge of my clip right here, but usually the sound doesn't start right at the front of the clip. And this is somewhere where the desktop app is more beneficial, because you can actually see the waveform down here in the desktop CapCut app, and it gives you more of an indicator of where you can line up your timing. Not the biggest deal, but if you're dealing with a lot of sound effects and music and stuff like that, then it can be a time saver. So let's just drag this and overlap it a little bit and try that. And we're just gonna kind of, I think that can work for now. So now we're gonna go ahead and add some music. So if we come down here and go to sounds, And down here, this bar, it's asking us to allow access to TikTok, which makes sense because TikTok owns CapCut. So having their library of music and sound effects in there is only going to be beneficial. Then let's search for something that could work. So I would say that the vibe of this one is potentially like a travel video. It is at the beach, so that could be a good starting point. You can also search right here if you kind of know what you're looking for, because then you can use the sounds that are trending on TikTok and you can upload straight to the platform in some instances. So I'm not going to do that right now because I'm not logged into TikTok at the moment. So I'm not going to sit here and make you go through that, but just so you know that that's what that is. And then over here we have these folders, and this is where you can import stuff from your device. Here, this fire tab is your recommended sound. So this will change over time as you start building stuff up and saving audio. It's going to start recommending stuff that it thinks that you might like. We can preview those by just clicking on them, and then you can see right here that it has an indicator that if it's a pro effect or not. We're just focusing on the free stuff right now, but there's definitely benefits that we'll talk about later in the pro versus the free account. So I would just scroll through and just preview the ones that it's recommending just to see how it's doing and if I actually like any of these. Yeah, so right off the bat, it's not what I'm looking for. They might work for something, but let's come over here to travel, and you can see that some of those were already popping up in the same things. So what we're looking for is some type of a music that has a slow build up and then a moment where we can have the music just break down on the transition and just help that out. And sometimes this can take a lot of time to go through, and that's why it's super important to save things as you go. Keep your ear open as you're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok, and really just save anything that makes you feel good that you could potentially use for a video. So I have so many libraries saved up already that if I go to make a video, it's not going to take me that long to find something, but I'm not using that stuff right now. I'm just showing you what we have in front of us. So this one is kind of an upbeat thing that I could use, but it doesn't have that slow build up, which is what I'm looking for. Okay, I feel like this is going to work well. That right there, that's what we're looking for, is that slow build up and that moment where you're just like, yeah, that's when it starts. So then when we have a transition happening, it really just helps the visual just feel so much more seamless when you have audio that's driving it. So let's go ahead and save that, and then I'm going to press play, and obviously it's going to drop it to where my timeline marker was. So we're going to have to come in here and make some adjustments. Even if I would have had my timeline marker at the front, it doesn't really matter because we're gonna have to trim off some of this to find the right spot where that music beat hits. So let's just go ahead and try to find that spot. And I think it's right. So you can see the waveform here, and that's our marker right there. So what we would do, a little shortcut, instead of trying to extend this thing as we're moving it, just drag it all the way up until that point almost. I can grab this clip and I can actually just drag it down to this layer, and then we just want to try to line up that waveform right there, and if it works and it's correct, then we'll extend out the front. Yeah, so that can work. So let's click on this, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab this toggle, and this is where the toggles come in handy, and you can extend it all the way over to the left. Okay, so another thing is when something is too loud, you can adjust the volume on it. So now that we have music and a sound effect in there, there's going to be a point where it's going to be too loud and it's going to clip the audio. So we're going to need to turn something down. So if I hit play, and you know that the speakers just can't handle all of those decibels, so we're going to come in and select this one, and then down here in the audio menu, which pops up when you select a piece of audio, we have a volume, and we can just turn this thing way down. We don't need to be super literal with our sound effects. It just adds a little bit, and honestly with this music in there, we might not even need it anymore. So let's go ahead and put that to 30. I'll say in general, I'll start by putting stuff at like half volume, but in this case, I already know we can turn this one a lot more down. Yeah, so that's the basic audio edit there. And then down here, what we would do if we want this to line up, so let me go ahead and zoom in by pinching my fingers. If we know that we want our project to end right here, instead of trying to perfectly line it up and split it, what I like to do is select my clip somewhere where it's offset from the ending, and then go ahead and split that there. Delete what we don't need, and then here is where that snap tool is super powerful, because now we can just grab this and it will just snap to the end. Okay, so now when we come to play, what we can do, since there's an ending there but it doesn't feel very good to just end abruptly with audio, then we can select this and we have this fade option here. So if I click this, then it's going to let us fade the music in or fade it out. And in this sense, we kind of want to do both. So by how much we drag this, it's telling you right there how many seconds of time it's going to spend on that fade. So let's try 0.3 seconds or 0.5. Let's go ahead and do the beginning too. And so you can feel that at the end, it's just a little bit smoother of an ending. So I also wanted to show you something that I mentioned. So if you take this audio and you don't match it up with the timing at the end of your clip, what happens is when you play this through, if you export this and you upload it to social media, for instance, what's going to happen is once it comes to the end of the clip, there's nothing here to view anymore. So it's going to turn black while we can still hear that audio. And then if it goes and it loops the video, then there's going to be a black flash frame in between, which is not good. So if we play this, you can see that it turns black before the music actually ends. That is absolutely what we do not want to happen. Okay, so those are the first steps to getting started with CapCut Mobile. Now, if you want to dive deeper into content creation, I also post tons of free quick tutorials on my Instagram and other accounts that teach you how to create scroll stopping videos that will get more attention on social media so you can grow your business or brand. But if you're really serious about making better content and you're just looking for a blueprint to level up your videos fast, build a brand online, and grow your social media account, I would recommend checking out my course 7-Day Viral VFX, where I teach you how to make scroll stopping videos from scratch, use AI to create a unique content strategy for your niche, and all without using complicated software or expensive equipment. These are the same techniques I've personally used to skyrocket my own accounts on Instagram and TikTok to both over 200,000 followers, gaining over 30 million views in just 6 months' time. And I lay out all my secrets and proven methods in an easy to digest formula. And we have over 7,500 students, and some of them are getting millions of views just from using some of the first effects I teach in the course. So if you're ready to level up your content game and blow up your accounts, check out the link in the description.